CBS 46 News presents Public Affairs on Peach.
And good morning to you and welcome to Public Affairs on Peach. And today we are going to be talking about a problem that is very much in the news all around the country. You got it from coast to coast. And child sex trafficking, our focus really going to be on Clayton County today, which has been recognized for its approach in dealing with this problem. Our first guest, Joanne Sutherland with CSEC, which stands for Serving Commercially Exploited Children, and also Sherelle Thomas. She is the executive director of Rainbow House. And I really want to ask you about this federal grant. Tell us about the grant you received and really what that means to the organization.
Clayton County received the Edward Bryan Grant in 2014, where we focused specifically on the Clayton County public schools, commercially, sexually Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So really, you're talking about dealing with the exploitation of children, because a lot of times people don't think it's happening, or maybe they don't want to acknowledge that it's happening.
Well, I think everybody, obviously we're in the metro area, it is happening here. And I think Clayton County has taken a proactive approach to saying it is here, it's not going to be here for long if we take a proactive approach.
And I think that probably is something that most people don't really want to acknowledge either, or even recognize that when you take that proactive approach, you get in front of that problem, because that problem is here and it's not like it's going to stay in one county and not come to another county.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly correct. Most of the time, we wait for something to happen before we start taking a stance on it. And what we're doing, partnering with Clayton County Public Schools and Rainbow House, we're getting ahead. We're trying to educate the community, educate the families, because sometimes it's the child right next door. It's the person that you least expect.
That's exactly right. Are there signs, and I know I've dealt with it, when you start talking about the stories that you deal with and the officers that you go out on different undercover operations with, to really get a better understanding of what's happening in your community, because a lot of times in the community it's happening right under your noses. And don't be disillusioned, it is happening in affluent communities, it's happening in inner cities, it's happening everywhere. What should folks be looking for?
Child abuse, child neglect, runaway frequency. We work really close with the Clayton County Police Department and the Clayton County Sheriff's Office, as well as the school police, to raise awareness and training for them to increase their awareness on the signs and symptoms as well. Our focus at the Rainbow House is to prevent victims from becoming victims. We already have programs and resources available to those who are victims. Our focus right now with the grant is to be more proactive in our county with our community, our business leaders, and that means teaching, that means going out talking to the community, raising awareness through some of the events that we're doing. Anybody who will listen, any person, will talk to them.
And what about the Rainbow House? How does it play a role in this?
Well, Rainbow House is an emergency children's shelter and advocacy center. So we are a huge component in Clayton County when it comes down to taking in children who have experienced some type of abuse or neglect. And sometimes it's happening right in the home. Sometimes, you think that it's someone on the outside, but sometimes that person can be an uncle, cousin, friend, neighbor. And so Rainbow House plays the part where sometimes the child may need to be removed from the home or taken to a safe environment. And so we take them in at Rainbow House. They actually live there. Also, the Advocacy Center plays a huge component because we conduct the forensic interviews, and sometimes we're in the process of opening our forensic medical department. So Rainbow House is a huge component, and once a family comes or once a child comes there, the healing begins immediately.
That is good. Now, what happens if the family doesn't cooperate, or maybe you have a family, because I'm assuming you think, well, you want to get these kids help, and most families will cooperate, but again, sometimes, like you said, people are thinking that it's not happening in the family. You look sometimes right in the family, and that's where it's happening. How do you handle that?
Well, sometimes I'll say that when you have a person or a family that's resistant to come in, it's just about education, and letting them know they're not alone. Sometimes, people feel like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to me. And so bringing them in and beginning family therapy, beginning the counseling process, that's huge in a community, because not everyone wants to participate in counseling. But once you get the education and it's understood that, hey, we can bounce back from this, but we have to face the problem.
Right, exactly. It truly does take a village. So much in our community, and so many times, and I'm talking, when I say community, not black, not Latino, but the human community. This affects everyone. We hear so many bad things about law enforcement. Law enforcement, they do a lot of good things. You talked about the cooperation that you get with the Clayton County Sheriff's and the police department, all of that. How important is that to the success in this program?
Awareness is the #1 goal, but the cooperation from our community and our local law enforcement is imperative. They're the ones on the streets doing the undercover operations. They're the ones doing the runaway cases. If they are not working well with us and we're not working well with them, we're not doing our victims any good. So it's imperative that we not only provide the training and awareness, but that we have a great relationship with PD, the Sheriff's Office, our judges, our probation, everybody.
Right. No, it absolutely does. Well, I tell you, I know it definitely takes a village, and of course, we're going to be talking about that. And thanks to everyone who is really putting their lives out there on the line and taking a stand in this. We'll talk a little bit about this coming up a little bit later in the show. Stay with us.